This is an overview of how to communicate with a gun enthusiast. The objective is not to beat them with moral superiority, but rather have them confronting their entrenched beliefs by asking questions. I am a veteran of the U.S. Army, an expert marksman with an M16, and have previously owned different types of guns, including an AR-15. First, things not to say. These are things that will automatically have you pigeonholed in their mind as an unconstitutional libtard who wants to take away their freedom. For many gun owners, guns and freedom are the same thing. First, don't say gun control. Frame it in the context of keeping dangerous weapons out of the hands of crazy people. Second, don't say repeal the Second Amendment. We aren't going to change core parts of the Constitution, nor should we want to, because we love the First Amendment. Third, don't say assault rifle. This is an arbitrary term applied to semi-automatic high-capacity rifles and will end the conversation for gun lovers. The most common type of gun used in mass shootings are AR-15s, so you can use this term if semi-automatic high-capacity rifle is too wordy for you. Be prepared that some will try to beat you down with technical gun knowledge to prove their gun intelligence, so if that happens, divert back to asking more questions about one of the other topics covered here. Don't say, thoughts and prayers are useless. Rather, agree that prayer is important, but we need to take stronger action because people keep getting killed even after prayers. Do say, freedom. We all love freedom. Do say, constitutional law. We respect the Constitution, and there are ways to use the Second Amendment in a manner that doesn't allow crazy people to get guns. Do say, common sense. Do say, I respect your right to hunt and self-protection. So here's a list of things that they will say, and here's counterpoints. They'll say, don't mess with the Second Amendment. You say, of course not. What does a well-regulated militia mean to you? Here's some background. The United States disbanded most of its standing army after the Revolutionary War, so the main purpose of the Second Amendment when it was written in the 18th century was to quickly mobilize and organize militia from citizens who owned their own guns, hence the well-regulated militia part. They'll say, the Second Amendment guarantees my right to have a gun. You say, yes, but did you know that wasn't actually true until 2008? Here's some background. After extensive lobbying on the part of the NRA and gun groups, the 2008 District of Columbia versus Heller Supreme Court ruling extended the well-regulated militia part to include individual ownership. That's not the way it was originally written, though. They'll say, the Second Amendment means no restrictions on the type of gun I can own. You say, did you know that the majority ruling in District of Columbia versus Heller, written by conservative judge Antonin Scalia, states that there is support in the historical tradition of prohibiting the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons. They'll say, the Second Amendment is the only thing preventing the U.S. from becoming a dictatorship. You'll say, the military has tanks, surface-to-air missiles, and armed drones. Replies will range here, but the key is to try to agree that there's restrictions on private ownership of certain types of weapons already, because of common sense. In truth, if the government wants to get you, they will just turn off your water and power, and wait. They'll say, why should I, a law-abiding, responsible gun owner, be punished for the actions of a few nuts? You'll say, I absolutely respect your right to hunt and self-protection. Do you need a weapon that was originally designed for warfare for that? They'll say, guns don't kill people. People kill people. You'll say, yes, you're right. Idle nuclear warheads don't either. So should those be easy to get as well? And you can also say, could Adam Lanza, a scrawny weakling, manage to have killed 26 kids and adults in just 3 minutes without an AR-15? They'll say, cars kill more people than guns, so why don't we ban them too? You'll say, you're right, so we should treat guns more like cars then. That means mandatory training, licenses, insurance, and registration for the firearm itself. They'll say, I need a gun for self-defense or hunting. You'll say, I completely understand that. Do you need an AR-15 and a 30-round clip for hunting or self-protection? Here's some background. M16s were designed to kill and maim humans in warfare. Then they were slightly modified, called AR-15s, and made available for civilian purchase, so gun manufacturers and the NRA could make boatloads more money. But they are bad for self-defense because they are too big, and they are bad for hunting because they were designed to fragment and destroy a large amount of tissue, because they were designed to kill and maim people in warfare. They'll say, a handgun doesn't have enough stopping power against body armor, which is why I need an AR-15. You'll say, why are armed people in body armor trying to kill you? Here's some background. 99% of break-ins are people preferring to avoid confrontation. A dog or loud noise is usually enough to scare them away. They'll say, good guys with guns are the only way to stop bad guys with guns. You'll say, how many mass shootings have been stopped by other people with guns? They might have references such as the Texas shooter or Maryland shooter. Devin Patrick Kelly killed 26 people in a church and was leaving when he was confronted. The Maryland shooter, armed with only a handgun and not an AR-15, killed himself. In reality, the element of surprise wins nearly every time, even in heavily armed places like Texas, Nevada, and Florida. They'll say, if teachers were armed, they could prevent a school shooter. You'll say, can you say you'd trust every teacher you've ever had to be packing heat while looking after your kids? And you know it would cost roughly $9 billion to arm and train teachers, just in public schools. So who's going to pay for that? They'll say, even if you make guns illegal, bad guys will still get them. You'll say, could Adam Lanza, who had Asperger's, and mentally ill guys in Colorado and Arizona have figured out how to get an AR-15 and hundreds of rounds of ammo on the black market? And should all weapons of war be made legal also? Because people are going to get them anyway. They'll say, shootings are the price of freedom. You'll say, so you'd be prepared to tell parents of a child killed in a school shooting that your right to own an AR-15 is more important than their child. They'll say, there's nothing that can be done about these shootings. You'll say, why do you think there have been no mass school shootings in Australia, the United Kingdom, or Japan in decades? Do you think it has something to do with their tight restrictions on guns? Remember, the purpose of these debates is not to belittle or to force your opinions onto them. Find out more about them. Often they were victims of bullying or abuse. Let them know that their strength comes from their voice and will, not their gun. The point here is incremental change. Banning AR-15s, increased background checks, raising the age limits. There are many things that we can do that would have prevented a lot of these mass casualties. And understand that women's rights, civil rights, voting rights, LGBT rights weren't won through browbeating, but by converting those who were opposed and engaging those who might have been apathetic.